Hello, everyone. I'm Paige Alexander, and welcome to Real Food Recovery.
Hi, and I'm Jamie Morgan Reno. Real Food Recovery has one mission. Our mission as a podcast and as a team is to help empower people to make educated, life-renewing decisions that promote physical, emotional, mental health, longevity, vitality, peace, and wholeness. And that includes wholeness in all categories, not just food. We are food plan neutral and processed food free. And at Real Food Recovery, we really would love to hear what you think and also what questions you have for us as we continue to record more podcasts. If you've got a specific question, you can send it to us in our Facebook page, where you can do Real Food Recovery 23 on Instagram, or you can even go to the chat here on YouTube and you can submit your questions there. The other kind of caveat that I want to put out there about today's episode, this is episode 5, and we're going to be talking all about what is food addiction and how do you know if you have it? How do I know if I have it, right? So this is a science-heavy episode. There's a lot of research behind these criteria we're going to talk about. So we just want you to stay with us. We don't want you to overthink it too much. We're going to, trust me, there's going to be lots of stories and lots of sharing personally between Paige and I about how we apply these criteria to our lives. And we promise, as we walk you through this, we're going to leave you feeling less shame as we walk through the criteria, less shame than you thought was possible. So,
Yeah.
Paige,
I'm going to tell kind of a joke, but I always laugh at this because do you really even need to ask if you have food addiction or not? Do you not just know?
Yeah. Huh?
So
Denial is not just a river in Egypt. Do you remember?
I love that.
You know, I lived in the place of denial for many years where I was like, I'm not an addict. I'm not an addict.
We joke around here saying we live at 564 North Denial Street, where all things are good all the time. It's unicorns and rainbows and baskets of puppies. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started and see if any of this sounds familiar to you. I think you'll find it interesting how the questions are so relatable to your experience. So Jamie and I are going to go through these, but let me start out with the first one. Have you often found that when you start eating, you end up eating more than you were planning to? Can I just say, duh? I mean, I just want to say that before I got into recovery, and I'm really good now, I do kind of measure out my food because that chip in my brain where some people talk about intuitive eating, that people with food addiction, if you ever hear anybody tell you that, don't walk, but run. Because I don't have that ability. If I had that ability, I wouldn't be here right now.
Exactly.
So, yes, always, if it felt good, do it more. That is the signal that my brain was sending. And it was sending that brain because I was eating the foods that was their job to tell my brain that.
Right.
Now I don't eat foods that tell my brain that. And I'm very easily satiated because I'm eating foods highly filled with fiber and water, food ingredients that the brain can go, oh, I can take relax right now.
Right.
Things are good. So
that's right.
Do you even want to say anything about this one? You want to pipe in about your experience?
Like duh is, of course I do. Of course I do. And until I pulled all the processed food out and those ingredients out, my body just naturally knows. I don't overeat anymore. It naturally knows when I've had enough, and if food is like, ugh, I just want to push it away. Do the thing that my pediatrician growing up used to tell me to do. Just eat half a sandwich and push the other half away. And I'm looking at him like, are you joking? Like,
yeah,
that's hilarious that you think I'm just gonna eat a half a sandwich.
Yeah.
And act like everything's hunky dory.
My husband has this bowl of oatmeal that he puts fruit in every morning. That's what he has every morning. And that freak leaves a bite in the bowl. I'm like, what? Do you need to be institutionalized? What is the matter with you, man? So he says the strangest things. He looks at me, he goes, I was done.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I've also heard once where somebody was talking about this and they said, you could easily eat 8 donuts in a day, but you could never eat 8 apples in a day. So yeah,
Right.
good one. Okay. So Yeah. Yeah. So if you end up eating more than you were planned, so give yourself a point.
Yeah.
If you get to 6 points, then you know that you are in the category where there's some concern. There's something to look at. So, okay. You want to do the next one, Jamie?
Yeah, I've tried to cut back on eating. I've tried to cut back. Yeah, that's a hard yes for me. In my experience, I have tried to cut back. I was on the diet roller coaster for years. I was on the binge and restrict cycle for years, where I would, restrict until I got to the point where I couldn't anymore, and I would binge. And then I would restrict again until the next binge. So I would try, or I would say, I'm just going to have half a piece of this cake, and I'm going to eat the other half of the piece almost immediately after I started the first half. Like it would never last. It would never could make it work. And for me, it was never just like, I'm just going to eat this one piece. It was always like, even if it was in a pantry, in a cabinet, in another room, it would just call me, and I would just go and just get a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And pretty soon it was all gone. I tried every single trick in the book, pouring it into the garbage can. I eat it out of the garbage can. I would try to cut back by putting it in the garbage can and pouring soap or dirty water or coffee grounds or I would always find the parts that weren't dirty or soapy to eat. I mean, really, like this at the extreme part of my addiction, trying to cut back was a joke.
While I am eating my first piece of cake, I'm trying to figure out how I can get to my second.
That's right.
Actually, even if it was food,
Mhm.
non-sugar
palatable,
food,
right.
yes, I'm already negotiating how I'm going to get back. How much am I going to eat? Will I be just too full to go on after that second
Mhm.
helping? So it's a big yes for me. So now I have 2 points.
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah,
Oh,
I definitely do.
the next
Certainly.
one. Have you spent a lot of time eating, being groggy from eating, or tired, hungover from eating?
Mm.
Uh, I spent a lot of time around eating, a lot of time eating, not feeling so great afterwards. And the hungover for me comes in what hungover looks like for me was just sheer devastation over what had just happened. That when I say I had no control, it is an out of body experience. When those cravings hit and hit hard back here in the center brain, we now know that it almost controls locomotion. I
Mhm.
have described this before on this podcast where I am reaching and putting it in my mouth, wanting it. I mean, oh gosh, I cannot get another bite fast enough. On the inside, I'm in the fetal position. I am curled up, grabbing hold the same way I do on that first hill on the roller coaster. I am clenched
Yes.
over because you lose
Yeah.
you just, it's the worst feeling. The
Mhm.
floor drops out from underneath you. You
Mhm.
don't know when it's going to end. How much damage are you going to do? How am I ever going to repair this? When is it going to come again? It
Mhm.
is the most painful, terrifying, traumatic experience.
Yeah,
And you just are waiting for it to hit again. So,
absolutely.
yes, the hungover.
Yes, I see it all the time at family functions and parties, or if I'm staying with folks and there's, holidays or whatever, I will see it where, the people in the group that I'm part of choose, whether it's family or friends, choose to eat the processed foods or the holiday foods or the comfort foods. I mean, I can time it. I can time it within an hour. They will be in their rooms or on the sofa, passed out, every time. And even these are people that can even leave half a cookie on a plate, right? And these are still the
Hmm.
people that every time. And so, yes, I am, what it was, 3 for 3, 4 for 4
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. No, 3 for 3. I think
Three
we're
for
three for
three.
three so
Yeah,
far. So,
yeah.
yes.
With the bullet,
Okay.
with the bullet. Uh,
Yeah.
I
I
experienced craving. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I wish we had immediate audience go. If we had a room full of people, everybody would be going, just shaking their heads. Think about how many calories you're gonna be burning, shaking your head with
Exactly.
understanding to
The
what
potato
everybody's saying.
chip company didn't come up with their marketing campaign of you can't just eat just one, because they were lying. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, they were right. You cannot just eat one.
That's right. That's right. So the
Okay.
next
Number
criteria,
4.
I experience cravings or urges to eat processed foods all the time. I had them all the time. I was constantly
Mhm.
thinking about when and how much and what it would be like and what I would eat next. And after I ate, what I would do to work it off or not work it off or what it was like a whole thing. I constantly had cravings. I never knew when they would hit or what would cause them. And even if I was full, sometimes after a meal, I would look, if the meal was particularly salty, I would look for something sweet. And if the meal was sweet, I'd look for something salty. It was like a whole thing. And yeah, that's my
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, I always had cravings too and strong desires and urges to eat these processed food because I wasn't organized. And
Mhm.
so I might not have breakfast. I'm running to the office. Okay,
Right.
now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So when you're hungry like that, you want to
Yeah.
grab a handful of M&Ms. I mean, it's
Mhm.
you don't have anything else on hand. You didn't think ahead,
Right.
and now that I plan and prepare all of my food in advance before I go to bed at night. I have my food prepped and
Yep.
ready to go.
Game changer.
It is, I mean, it's like the heavens parted and the angels started singing that, oh, I don't have to live that way. I just need to be a little more organized. So that's when we'll get into skill power and
Yeah.
um but those pesky cravings, it is an itch inside the brain
Yeah.
that you cannot scratch any other way than through processed food. It's
You
torture.
think. Right. Yeah. Me too.
Right. That's the message that the addiction sends, and it's extraordinarily uncomfortable, extraordinary. So
Yes,
we got another point.
I definitely do. How about the next one, Paige?
Okay. Do you eat so much that it's hard to fulfill major role obligations at work, school, or home?
Mm.
I didn't really have that because I'm so uber type A. I'm type triple A that I am highly, highly responsible and motivated. I would never let someone down. I would just stuff it down and hide it and trudge through,
Mhm.
put on the happy front and just keep moving. So I actually did not, this is one that I never really suffered
Okay.
from.
That's accurate.
You?
Yes. Oh yeah. My food addiction, in the height of it, I absolutely struggled in school with attention and with
Oh.
reading capability. Even though my reading comprehension was very good, I actually scored off the charts for reading comprehension. But getting me to sit down long enough to read and really put the time into reading when I wasn't being tested, that was a whole other thing. I was never diagnosed with any formal learning disability or ADD, ADHD, but based on the childhood I had and the experiences I had, there's no doubt that I am sort of, if it's a spectrum, I'm on that spectrum. And I have to be very careful with my squirrel moments, as I call them. But even more so, right? They were really, really through the roof on processed foods. But more importantly, I did not fulfill roles. I had a hard time fulfilling a role of wife, of daughter, of niece, of aunt, of sister. I was consumed with food so much, or was consuming it, that that's all I cared about. And how could I just get through this interaction with this person so I could eat again? Work, absolutely. My food contributed to me getting laid off from jobs. Not so much maybe the food, but the way that my health was as a result of the food. I
Hmm.
was a liability to organizations, and you know what? I know that that's a controversial thing to say in the world we're living in today, but guess what? It is true. It is true. We are, when we have this addiction that progresses, we become not only abandoning to ourselves and we abandon our own health, we become a liability to organizations that are paying more to insure us and paying more for our
Oh,
costs. And I get it. I know that we are not going to fat shame anyone. However, this is the hard reality. of the financial situation for many organizations. They will, if there's two employees that are both underperforming and one of them is obese and one of them isn't, they will let go of the obese person because they cost the company more money in the long run.
I agree. And segueing into an article I just read in the newspaper front page about how the obesity rate in the military is skyrocketing. There's like over 10,000 overweight or obese people. And here's the problem. These are the people protecting our country.
Absolutely.
They're missing more days at work. They're inefficient at what they're doing. So it's literally affecting us on a global level.
Oh, absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
yes, very costly. I can't wait till we do our episode on how much does food addiction really cost.
Mhm.
You would be shocked at all the
Yeah.
contributing costs. You mentioned something about ADD. Do you care if I take one small right turn? And it's crazy that you said this because I actually was looking up some information about this morning. I'm going to read you two different statements that I found. Experts believe that people with ADHD may overeat to satisfy their brain's need for stimulation.
Yeah.
And people with attention deficit disorder tend to be overeaters. So I just saw that
Yeah.
obesity is 5 times more prevalent among people with ADHD than who don't. There are several comorbidities with ADD
Yes.
and this. So there is a huge link between ADD
And that all can be linked back to, that saying, right? That famous book by Dr. Van der Kolk about body keeping the score, right? ADD and ADHD are also outcomes of childhood traumatic experiences
Mhm.
and adverse experiences. So though overeating and ADD go hand in hand, typically with in childhood form, typically when there's childhood trauma or adverse experiences. So again, just things to look at, right? We can never outrun our past. We can never outrun the bad food choices or the poor food choices. And it absolutely, for me, affected every aspect of my life.
Yeah, this article I was reading says that problems with executive function can make self-control and self-regulation difficult.
There you go.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. I lived it.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one, I have relationship problems around my eating. My eating causes relationship problems. How about you, Paige?
So, yeah, do you go ahead and eat despite having these persistent relationship problems? Hell yes. I know we talk about in here, we don't really swear, but again, capital H, capital E, capital L, capital there, when you're in the depths of addiction, there is no other relationship other than food. That's number one. Everything else, it's not like 2, 3, 4, it's one and then
Right.
it will not let you alone to think about the other person's needs. You are so engrossed in trying to satisfy this addiction. It
Yes.
consumes every thought. I mean, you are just, it's continually at the forefront of your brain. So does it? It precludes you from having deeper relationships because we know that we connect through shared experiences. And if you're checked out and you're with someone, but you're still checked out, you're thinking about how can I get another hit? You ain't there.
Right.
So yes, it affects us deeply with others and with ourselves. You
Right.
can't even begin to discover who you are when you're just a slave to addiction. So absolutely 100,000% yes. What do you say?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I had, my relationship problems caused I thought, right, that they contributed to my eating problems. My eating problems contributed to my relationship problems. And then there were many times in my first marriage where I was just like, let me just get through this situation, this party, this outing, this whatever, so I could go and eat the way I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
It was really just, I'm just going to put the time in and then I can go do what I want to do. It's the same way I've heard many friends in recovery from alcoholism or drug use. They'll say, I just wanted my spouse or partner to go to bed so that I could eat or drink or drug the way I wanted to. Same thing from
So painful. It's so painful. It crushes me to hear those types of stories because I just picture these people dark and alone, scared, just in so much pain. And there's such a better way out.
absolutely.
So Okay, we've got another check mark.
I definitely.
I'm glad I got this next one. Have you given up important social, occupational, or recreational activities because of eating? Again, big fat yes, all caps in bold.
For sure.
So oftentimes, I don't want to do anything in the evening because that's my weakest moment. We know during the day that as those drips of dopamine come into the bucket during the day, that sometimes they're likely to spill over. So our resistance goes down as the day goes on. So the idea of going out in the evening versus just being in a safe prison in my house where nothing can get me and I'm not going to have cues and triggers and I can just be like this and get
Feels
through
easier.
our oh way. And I know that if I go out like a ladies' church function, they're going to have highly palatable foods there. I don't want to have to fight that, even though I'm losing out on connecting with other women. I can't afford it. It's too risky for me. I know I'm not strong in those hours. And if I have someone, a girlfriend who might want to go to lunch, I'm like, well, no, I can't do that, but I'll happily take a walk, which I do stick to today.
Exactly.
But no, I don't want to go out to lunch. Heck no, that's terrifying. I'm scared of that. So does it impact socialization? A lot. What I want to avoid going out to dinner. Vacations are scary, going out to the movies and smelling all that stuff. Yeah, I still have that to some degree.
Yeah, I've come along. I hear you. I've come a long way in that healing around that, but it depends on the day. There were a couple of times when my husband and I had plans to go out to see a movie, and I had to say, hey, we got to reschedule. I can't do it. It's been too much of a stressful day. I can't be around all the food. There are other times when I have a process now where I bring certain things to the theater with me. We go there after a meal that's whole and fresh and filling, and I'm fine. But it can't just be a throwaway film. It has to be a film I really want to see. Otherwise, I'll just wait and do it at home. And I used to be really scared to eat out. And I avoided tons of social situations, a lot. And I became sort of, recluse in some ways. Again, if I look back, it was always around stressful periods in life or periods that I was uncertain or living in sort of a place of fear, which for me was often for a few years. And I ended up finally getting out of that. But no was my first answer, my knee-jerk answer, because it wasn't necessarily a year of yes, right? As some people have talked about having a year of yes, but it was, let me ask me, like, what do I have in me for this event or this outing or this restaurant? And how can I navigate and use my tools and make this a learning opportunity? So I'm much more comfortable at restaurants, but we're going out, just we're meeting some friends to go out tomorrow night to do like a tourist kind of thing, and then they're talking about going out to eat afterwards. And my husband, I said to him, well, we may be with them, we may not be with them, it depends where they want to go. And he just knows what that means. He knows that it means that we might have to say thank you, no thank you. Well, it was fun doing the tourist event, and now we're going to go do our own meal.
Yeah. Smart. And how nice. I'm going to give a shout out to your husband that he's willing to support you in that huge, that keeps the peace and harmony. And I'm going to give you another compliment in that you do well. You are very social, and you have become very skilled with handling those social situations.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll
talk about right.
There's a lot of modeling, because I model, and the friends that I spend a lot of time with know that there are certain things I won't compromise. Just like I don't ask them to go eat dinner in a bar, if they're in recovery from alcohol. I don't ever say, let's go eat dinner at this bar. They're not going to be like, let's go grab, Whataburger and, fries and a shake, right? They're not going to bring me to those places either. So yeah.
Smart.
All right. Good. So I eat when it's hazardous or dangerous to do so. So what's an example of that, Paige?
Okay, so unfortunately, I've got one. I've got some good ones. So you're driving down the street and you're reaching for the bag of French fries, even though you're in heavy traffic. Or you're trying to drive with your knees because so you can double fist, whatever. Because I can't wait that 5 miles till I get
Yep.
home
Yep.
to do it. So have I done that? Yes, I eat in my car.
Mhm.
And it's just that important to me. But I I try to tone that down, and anything I'm eating
Yeah.
is healthy now. Sometimes it is a situation where I've got 5 minutes between from one place to the
Right.
next,
Yeah. And that's,
but yes, I have definitely reached for things. I'm Several years ago, one of a girl that we grew up with as adults, she was married at that time, and they were on a long trip driving, and she was asleep. The husband was driving. She was asleep in the passenger seat, and he was reaching for a Cheeto
mm,
that had fallen, flipped the car, and she ended up, I don't know if she was paralyzed,
oh
but
my
she
gosh.
was in like a neck
Yep.
brace, spinal surgery, in a hospital bed for like 6 weeks. I mean, easily could have
Oh yeah.
killed her. And
Mhm.
these types of things happen all the
Yes,
time. It's the same as, being on your phone while you're driving.
absolutely.
But yes, you can totally be distracted and put you in a dangerous situation.
We're
That's
in
really,
denial to think that it's not related to the food. It's
yeah.
absolutely related to the food.
hmm That's about the only really dangerous situation I can think about. I'm sure I'm missing something, but
Uh, for me, I have eaten, yes, in the car, of course, and behind the wheel and all of that. I have eaten bigger bites than I needed to a couple of times in
oh
my life where
yeah,
I have like had to work to swallow something.
yes,
And I've also, there was a time many, many years ago when I was, they thought for a minute that I had a heart issue and they were about to test me. And I came off of that process and felt so much, relief that I didn't have anything. And I knew there were consequences, but I think that, there was a cheesesteak in my future, right, that night, and some kind of greasy meal. And I was just like, it was just so dysfunctional the way that I looked at it, but it was, you know what, I know the consequence, right? I literally just went through a test about consequences. I know it's hazardous and dangerous, and I'm still going to do it anyway.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And I fight with gastric reflux, and I know that if I
Mhm.
would eat something
Right,
spicy, I I'd eat it
right.
anyway, and I would be miserable afterwards, but at the time,
Yeah,
didn't matter. And yes, I have choked on food before, and that is terrifying.
it is.
That's
And,
and you're you're gonna think, "This is how I go out. This
I
is how it's gonna end."
I think of Mama Cass every time. I'm like, Mama
Yes,
Cass
it's
and the
so
chicken nuggets.
embarrassing.
It is. And also it is, but it's also, for me, I had to ask myself, not so much with choking, but I was 400 plus pounds. I was probably over 450 pounds at one point. I was very, very sick, right, with this processed food addiction, and very obese. And I still ate junk and procured it on a regular basis, multiple times a day in, day out. I was eating and I had to ask myself at one point, why am I doing this? Like, it's beyond eating. I'm using
It's
food now to hurt myself.
it's it's slow suicide.
It really
S-
was.
So, yes, then I guess we've got another point.
Yeah, I got another point for sure.
Okay, next one. Has your eating caused any psychological problems like making you depressed or anxious, making it difficult to sleep, or causing disruptive fatigue? Has your eating ever caused significant physical problems or made a physical problem worse? Yeah, it's caused psychological problems.
Mhm,
It's one big ball of psychological problem
mhm.
between the ears. It is depressing. It
Yeah.
does make you anxious. It is. I've had to sleep sitting up propped with pillows before because I had too much in my belly. I couldn't even bend. I was so distended and uncomfortable, which
Mhm.
again, it's and causes fitful sleep and all that. So yes, it leads to fatigue.
Yeah.
Yes, it's literally the worst mental torture I've ever experienced in
Yeah.
my life, by far,
Yeah.
by far, and it's every day.
Mhm.
Do you just want to say amen, or do you want to add to that?
No, amen. I couldn't have said it better. I spent so many days that way. And
Wasted,
yes,
wasted
and that was a
time.
goal. It was a goal to get to that point, to feel that way, right? I would think, I haven't eaten enough unless I'm literally sick. from the food.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I used to say is my cutoff point was when I was too sick to carry on or it was all gone.
Yep.
So yeah, just very abusive. All right. You want to do the next one?
I need to eat more than I used to in order to get the feeling I want. So the ramp up, right? For me, and I could see this with a million things and all of the food plans and the extreme food plans that I tried, trying to moderate processed foods. If there was a processed food or an ingredient in that food plan or in that diet that I would try years ago, and I would zero in on it, and then I would try to moderate it, and then it
Yeah.
would never. Of course, I would have to go and get a little more, and then a little more, and then a little more, and it's just a losing battle every time.
So what we call this in science is it's a downregulation of reward pathways.
Yep.
And I have a silver lining for you. I just heard a study about, well, we know this is true. When we get off these hyper palatable, hyper processed foods, our body will reset itself.
Yes, it does.
So that
glorious.
the reward pathways will go back to where they were before. But definitely, sugar is definitely a progressive disease where you do need to take more and more to get that light up in your brain like a Christmas
Yep.
tree. I
Same
just heard a statement the other
drugs.
day about how the lab rats, they studied them and their reward pathways
Mhm.
came back online. So yes,
Yeah.
we do know this is progressive, and you will definitely 1000% have to eat more in order to feel the same high. So yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So are we on the last one? Is my
Yeah.
top question right?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Have you ever had any withdrawal symptoms when you cut down or stopped eating certain foods, such as sweetening, such as sweating or racing heart, hand shaking, trouble sleeping, trouble thinking, feeling depressed, feeling agitated, feeling anxious, feeling tired? And do you eat to alleviate any of these feelings? Yes,
So what are those
especially
examples of?
sugar.
What are those examples of?
So sugar,
Mhm.
really, I don't have withdrawal from salty things. Sugar was my drug of choice. It's
Yeah.
always been my drug of choice. So, yeah, the cravings come on. You just feel like a headache or off balance, and until you can get another fix and satisfy everything, you are not in homeostasis. There
Right.
is something you're uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable to the point of the brain starts sending that message. And if you want to stay functional, you got to go get that, and you got to do it right now. I don't
Yep.
care if you're going to be late to work. I don't care if you have an obligation to your boss. I don't care if you're supposed to pick up the kids at school. You're going to make up an excuse. As soon as we get you what you need, we're going to start working on the excuse. But
Mhm.
right now, here's what we need. So that's what it's
Yep.
like with withdrawal. You got to plan for withdrawal, and it's possible. We've all done it,
Yes.
and you will live.
Yeah.
And if you make good plans, you can
Yeah.
get through it with the least amount of damage possible.
It is short term. It is short term, and it is. I
Yeah.
say it's short term pain, long term gain.
Yes.
I don't even think it's pain. It's really just it's the price of admission to freedom, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, well put.
So
Very, very
uh,
well put.
it's not pain for me. And I ate for reasons, and had the withdrawal symptoms from it all the time. And I didn't know that it wasn't normal to live like that. I didn't know that wasn't how people thrived, or how people just sort of did life. I didn't understand that.
How could you? How could you possibly? You, unless you lived a clean life, how could you possibly understand what you're missing?
Yeah, it's true.
Very good. Anything else you want to talk about with that? I mean, I got them all except
Oh
for
yeah,
one.
I'm a hot 11 out of 11.
Drop your comment. In the comments, just drop your number. If you want
Yeah.
to just put your number,
Yeah,
we'll know what you're talking about.
yeah. Were you keeping score? That's okay.
Yeah.
We were too.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what's fun about this, about these criteria? I'm not kidding when I say it's fun. Here I am, many years into recovery, and formally, right, many years out of the processed foods now, or a handful of years out of the processed foods, and I can still score this
Yeah.
criteria 11 out of 11. I am
Yeah.
still a severe processed food addict.
So I like to say that I'm in recovery. I will never be
That's right.
recovered.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't want to be, because
That's
that
right.
means I would let my guard down and become lax. And that's what the addiction is hoping that go, hey, you're doing great. Don't worry about this stuff. Relax, have fun.
That's right.
So interestingly, that kind of leads into our seed questions.
Yeah, your questions. Yeah.
Yeah. The first one is, I have a friend who wants to lose weight but doesn't want to suffer. Feels they say it feels like we are meant to enjoy life. What do I say?
Mm. Well,
Not
if your definition of enjoying life is enjoying food, then I would ask you, where else in life could enjoyment be found? Could you open your view a little bit wider and see that there's way more to life than just food?
Yes. So oftentimes when people are saying, I want to lose weight, but I don't want to suffer, I'm just meant to enjoy my life, I just give them a
Yeah,
head nod.
yeah, they're
I
not
say nothing.
they're not there.
No, not there. But you're right. I have had many people come to me and say, I just can't find anything that I like better than processed food. There's nothing I enjoy more. And you know what? I think to myself is freedom is better than processed food.
And I
Peace.
also think food is not your problem. Food is your solution to your problem. If
Yes,
you're if you're
that's
at a place, go ahead.
if you see people, someone who is obese, food isn't the problem. There's other problems going on. It's just a side effect of what
That's
the
right. It's the
problems
solution that you're
are.
using to get through life based on
Yeah,
the issues and the functional, it's what you're using to function through life. But there's something much deeper and underlying that is needs to be sort of
address.
examined and
Yeah,
addressed.
agree.
Absolutely.
Okay, one more viewer question. Are there varying degrees of addiction or does it affect everyone the same? Do you want to start out with this one?
No, I'll let you. I've got some thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
Okay, so yes, there are varying degrees of addictions. Just, when I was being funny saying, put your number in the comments regarding the criteria we were just going over. So I had 10, Jamie said she had 11. Some people may be a 6. My husband's low on the scale. So there are varying degrees. We know at 6 or more, we think that there's an issue that needs to be addressed. Some people have 6, and I can't imagine being a 6. But even though there are varying degrees, the solutions really are still the same. So the answer is yes, varying degrees of addiction. So what do you want to say? You want to wrap it up?
Yeah,
Wrap
no,
things
I
up.
agree. There's I might be on an extreme side, but I do have people in my life that can, eat a half of this or half of that, and not even think twice or look back, and they could care less
Freaks.
about food or care less about the addictive foods, or the addictive foods don't trigger them into eating them forever, the way they did me. So, and to those people, I say, that's amazing, and isn't it interesting that there are different people in the world. But yeah, this is just this science that we started to introduce in this episode, guys, is, we know it's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit, research based and detailed, and it might feel a little bit overwhelming, to think about labeling or to think about diagnosing or analyzing, but that's not our intention. Our intention is just to educate you with, hey, you're not alone in this. It's super common. There are many factors. It's a multifactorial disease. It's not just one thing. And you're living in a society that promotes it.
You're right.
And so it's really like there's so many thought leaders in this space that say it's not your fault. It really isn't. It's not your fault. And in my experience, I tell myself it is my responsibility. It's not my fault, but it's my responsibility to find a way out. And to consistently take the actions that keep me safe every day. And so that's why we're here. That's why we have this podcast. We want no one to feel like they can't find a way out. We're here because we found the way out. We want to share it with you.
We do. We want company. We like company.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank
Beautiful.
you. We'll see you all in the next episode. Thanks again for Real Food Recovery.
Bye, guys.
Bye.